As I'm sure all of you are aware, we do have a low pressure system that's going to be ejecting into the United States, mainly from up here. This little one back down over here is going to bring some snow, but the main story is when this secondary low pressure system pushes down to the south, bringing some decent lake effect snow up there into Illinois and northern Indiana. And then this little area back down here of some southern snow being possible. And then eventually, as our storm shifts off to the east, you can see those wind patterns change and we start to see even more snow back over here in Pennsylvania and New York. But we're going to be talking about just how much snow you can expect and how the different variations of temperatures will play a role in how much you see. It's not just straightforward as, oh, okay, here's some snow, you're going to get accumulating snow on the ground because model says so. Got to look at different kind of factors like the water temperatures of the Great Lakes, and also the ground temperatures are very important in determining on whether or not you're going to see a lot of snow or a little bit of snow. Now, in terms of our weather pattern that we are expecting here, and the blues are our low pressure systems and the reds and the oranges are our higher pressures than normal. And as I push this forward, you can see that we are expecting this little low pressure system, or pretty decent low pressure area, to dive down to the south through the Great Lakes, and then on the backside of that, bring that lake effect snow in for a lot of folks, and then eventually some more southern snow as we go into Monday afternoon, and then eventually that's going to eject off to the north and east. And as you can see here, this is definitely a lower pressure than we typically have in this time of year. But again, we're not talking about anything too crazy, but I mean, some higher elevations could definitely see some snowfall, especially over there in West Virginia and along the Appalachian Mountains. And then eventually, as this moves off to the north and east, could see those winds shift back over the Great Lakes, and we could see some decent snowfalls over here, like Erie, Buffalo, New York, before our system eventually moves out of our hair and we start to see a ridge build back in behind this, potentially shutting off the eastern United States snow machine for at least a week after this event. And you can really see those upper level winds visualized pretty well here when we look at our upper level wind pattern. You can see that as we go into Sunday afternoon or today and going into the nighttime, you can really see as this low pressure system dives down to the south, those winds coming out of Canada are really going to start pouring in. And then you can see these winds back over here grabbing that cooler air and then slinging it down into the United States behind this low pressure system. And that's why we're going to really start to see those temperatures drop all the way from the Midwest down into the southeast before we start to see this low pressure system move out. But as long as those winds are oriented north to south and we still have some moisture around by the Great Lakes, we're going to be seeing that lake effect snow machine continue to dump snow. And then as this low pressure system drops down to the south, that's when we're going to start to see those snow chances down there in the southeast, as well as there will be a little bit of moisture that actually came from the Great Lakes that moves down further to the south. And then eventually this starts to push off to the north and east. It's also going to bring some of those winds down to the surface. We could see some windier conditions as well. Now, zooming into the Great Lakes region, I do want to set the stage here with the two main things that are going to be contributing to this lake effect snow event, and also will also be contributing to see how much snow you get. So because the Great Lakes are so warm, we do have this little layer of 20 to almost 40 Fahrenheit dew points out over the Great Lakes. And that is where our moisture source is coming, not only for the Great Lakes, but also down there in the southeast. And you could see as we push into tonight, you can see that we are starting to get a convergence of winds down into this area. We're actually already seeing this lake effect snow band, but we're probably not getting too much accumulation just yet. And that is due to the fact that the ground temperatures are a little bit warmer. We'll be going over when that's going to transition later in this forecast. But yeah, you can see this little light band here, this little area where it looks lighter on the map. That is where our moisture is. And as that low pressure system comes over the Great Lakes, that's really going to switch those winds out from the north down to the south. And you can really see this moisture converge just off of the coast of Wisconsin and Illinois before it really starts to pump into parts of Chicago, and then eventually we're going to see that shift off to the east more into Indiana. And depending on how long this area of moisture and convergence stays over those areas will really determine how much snow they get. And you can really see here, watch this, as I go into Monday morning into Monday afternoon, watch these little lighter areas over our lake and just see how much they shift off to the east as we go later into the day on Monday. That's that low pressure system working its way down to the south and east, and then that low pressure system turns a little bit to the east, and that brings those winds with it. It's going to start bringing more snow over there into like Lake Erie and near Buffalo as we go further into the future. Now, another super important thing to note here is our temperatures across this region. today, going into tonight, you can see the temperatures near Chicago and Illinois, or in Indiana, sorry, are going to be above freezing. So a lot of this snow is going to have a hard time accumulating today. But man, as we get into those overnight hour periods, as we're really going to see those temperatures drop quite significantly. I would say significantly, but we're going to see it drop into the 30s and 20s, and those wind chills could be all the way down into the teens out in this area. And that's where we're really going to start to see that snow accumulate as we go into overnight overnight into Monday morning, and then going into the afternoon as well. Look at that. We can see that some of these temperatures warm up, but because we could and should have some snow accumulation, the freezing temperatures should hang on, but we could see a little bit of melting throughout the day before we go back into Monday night, going into Tuesday morning, those freezing temperatures return. But that's very important to keep in mind here for accumulation. Looking at our future radar in this area, you can really see that lake effect snowband is present, but again, it's going to be hard for that to accumulate today because of those temperatures being so high. But as that low pressure system works its way down to the south, this right here will probably be our first time where we start to see that snow accumulation really start to tick up as we go into tonight at around 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. That low pressure system comes through. Those temperatures are dropping. We see a nice little healthy band of snow there, and it's going to be pretty quick hitting. We're only talking about a couple of hours here initially, but then as we go into the early morning, those temperatures are really dropping, and then we get this lake effect snow band to really start to pick up over here near Chicago, and that's going to be there for a couple of hours because of all that lake effect warmth and moisture. We are going to see some pretty heavy snow. We could get anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow per hour. So even though this is only going to be potentially over Chicago for a couple of hours, you guys could get anywhere from 6 to maybe even 12 inches of snow with some higher amounts, depending on how long this thing sticks around, of up to 16 inches being possible. But as you can see, this does, as we go into later in the morning here on Monday, this lake effect snowband does shift off to the east, more into northern Indiana and also into western Michigan. And then as you continue to push that forward, that low pressure system sinks down to the south and east, changes those winds a little bit more down into the south and east as well. And we start to see that lake effect snow start to dissipate out there and start to move into the Ohio Valley. Now, this model product we're about to look at isn't perfect, but it does do a pretty good job in keeping, some of the temperature changes, radiative forcing, and like ground temperatures in mind. So this should be a pretty accurate depiction of how this goes. So we are going to get that low pressure system out here. We've already had a couple of inches potentially accumulate up there into northern Indiana, southern Michigan, and also in parts of northwestern Ohio. And then eventually we are going to see, that snow is still falling potentially out here. But again, we're not really seeing too much accumulation from that lake effect snow until we get into late Sunday. Those temperatures start to drop, and then look at that, boom, snow really starts to accumulate over there near Chicago, also into northwestern Indiana. I mean, we could be talking about anywhere from a couple of inches to maybe even up to 10 inches there near Chicago. But again, keep in mind, if that lake effect snowband doesn't sit over you for very long and it shifts off really quick, these snow totals could be a lot lower, and they can also be a little bit higher if it sticks around for a little bit longer than what's forecasted. But generally over here in northern Indiana, we could see up to 5 to 6 inches and maybe some isolated spots of like 8 inches being possible. Over there into northwestern Ohio could still have around 2 inches hanging around. And then as I continue to push this forward, you can see those winds really start to shift off to the north and east, start to get some radiative forcing back in, slowly melting that snow. But we should still, by around Monday night, still have a good healthy 4 to 5 inches, especially over here into northeastern Illinois going into northern Indiana. And then eventually could see maybe a little bit more snow over there, potentially up to 12 inches of snow a little bit further east here into northern Indiana. Look at this over in parts of Michigan, 4 to 5 inches are possible near Lake Michigan, and the UP of Michigan could be the winner of this event with almost 2 feet of snow in some isolated spots out there. So it's going to be colder up there longer, but that lake effect snow will probably accumulate a lot quicker, and your ground temperatures are also cooler than they are down here to the south. But again, not expecting any significant impacts out of this. I know you guys are used to this, but this snow will probably be off the road by the end of the day. Now, moving more to the northeast, you can see that, we are also going to be battling some temperature changes and waiting for that wind to shift. And one thing that I want you guys to look at here is that this little snow streak here is more north to south, but watch what happens as soon as those winds shift more to the east and you see that snow streak start to move more to the south and east. That's when we start to see our accumulating snow really start to pick up. And you can see in some of these areas, by the time we're all said and done, I mean, we could have up to a foot of snow out here almost 18 inches of snow in parts of Pennsylvania could be possible. Again, these snow totals are going to go up and down until this event actually happens. So I wouldn't 100% lock in all of these totals, but we have had some consistency here. If we go look at some of our different model runs, you can see it does range quite drastically between them. So I do want you guys to keep that in mind, that again, the HRRR is a little bit bullish here, I would say. And I think that's mainly because we're seeing those winds shift out to the east a little bit quicker, and these other models are less accurate in terms of snowfall because they don't have as high as a resolution as the HRRR. So it'll probably be somewhere in between what these models are saying by this point. And now as our moisture in that low pressure system starts to fall down to the south and east, watch this little area of spin. See, we got a little circle here that is indicating a surface or a low pressure system, a shortwave trough, starts to work its way down to the south and east and eventually goes into Tennessee and then off to the east. But this is not as simple as, okay, snowfall, I get snow. I play with snowman. Because again, what's going to be important here is our ground temperatures. And as of right now, early in the morning, temperatures are pretty warm and then they are going to cool down throughout the day. But as you can see, we're not going to get below freezing temperatures across most of this area until Monday morning. And still those ground temperatures will be taking a while to cool down, cool enough for any of this snowfall to accumulate. You can definitely see though right here in this strip where we do have a higher elevations here in Tennessee and also in the Appalachians, you guys are probably not going to have too much of an issue getting some snow accumulation, just given the fact that even throughout the day you're going to be colder. So definitely expect some snow accumulation there. But when we're talking about like middle Tennessee and like the lower elevations of northern Georgia, or even in this little area in between the mountains, this little valley area will definitely be warmer than the tops of the mountains. Might not see as much accumulation, if any, in those areas. So make sure you're keeping in mind that over the next couple of days, although you might see snow, probably not going to see too much accumulate unless you live up there. But yeah, throughout the day, it's going to be warmer. And by the time this pushes in by around Monday morning, Monday afternoon, you can see we're kind of mistimed here. If this little swirl came down, a swirl of snow came down in the night, in the early morning hours, you can maybe make some argument to some people could wake up with some snow on the ground. But because it's coming in the afternoon, it's going to be warmer, and a lot of our lower elevations will still see snow flurries, but you guys will probably not see much accumulation out of this whatsoever. And again, the only areas that are picking up accumulation probably at this moment is those higher elevations. And then by the time we cool down again, unfortunately, the missed timing, our snow is gone. Everyone's cold, but no one has really any snow to show for it. But keep your eyes out. A lot of folks really from Kentucky, southern Indiana, going into most of eastern Tennessee and northern Georgia, maybe even northeastern Alabama, are going to be seeing some flurries. And really the only people that are going to be getting that accumulation again is going to be in those higher elevations. And then by the time we get into Monday night, a lot of that snow moves out and everybody's just cold and miserable. In terms of snowfall accumulation, again, maybe 1 to 2 inches over here in the more eastern or western mountains of Tennessee, and then more eastern Appalachian area all the way up into West Virginia, probably somewhere from 2 to 5 inches. The higher elevation probably gonna get a little bit more because it's gonna be a little bit cooler. Same thing over here into West Virginia. We could even get up to a foot, almost 2 feet of snow in some parts of the higher elevations here in West Virginia. But just keep in mind, we do have model differences out here on this as well, especially over there in West Virginia. Definitely a big difference. Although a lot of models do agree on 1 to 2 inches for a lot of those mountainous regions. And again, not a whole lot for the lower elevations, which is not surprising. Now, we're also gonna have some decent wind gusts with this storm as well as we move into around Sunday night. So tonight could have anywhere from 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, especially up here in the Appalachian Mountains throughout the totality of this event. Probably gonna have anywhere from like 30 to maybe even some isolated spots of up to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. You see winds start to pick up over here near Chicago, maybe getting up to 40 mile per hour wind gusts as that first little shot of accumulating snow comes through, kind of staying in those 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts as that lake effect snow comes through. And you can see that wind moves through Illinois as well, down into the southeast, where it's not going to be as high of wind, but still 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts is going to be possible there. And then as the storm moves out of our hair, no one's really going to be feeling much wind impact except for over here near the Great Lakes on Tuesday morning, and also still in the Appalachian Mountains. Now, in terms of the wind chills, going to be the coldest up here, potentially negative 15 degrees in North Dakota. That's going to be chilly, but thankfully it's not going to really work its way down into any other places here in the United States. We still could see some teens, maybe even some single digits here in some spots, but generally those wind chills are going to be in the teens there in the Midwest, and then down into the Southeast on Monday night going into Tuesday morning. That's when it's going to be the coldest for us, and you could see anywhere from teens and maybe even low 20s when you factor in that wind chill. And then look down here in Florida, could see even Cape Coral close to Miami getting into those below freezing wind chills, which is, I'm not gonna lie, that's probably gonna feel like brutal cold for Florida. But everybody else, just jack it up and you'll be fine. Make sure that you are running those faucets to make sure that your pipes don't freeze. And again, these are only gonna be the temperatures when you get those wind gusts. When you're not getting wind gusts, it's gonna be warmer by probably about 5 to 10 degrees. But all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.